Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel, Chatting with Chops. My name is Karen and I try and make fun and entertaining videos that might teach you something along the way. Today we're going to try and make classic eclairs. Now I know that so far, if you've watched any of my previous videos, I'm usually doing vegan baking or I'm doing some kind of simple bakes, but I will go ahead and warn you, making eclairs is not simple. You're making pâte à choux and you're making cream, and so this is going to be a little bit more advanced bake, but I think it's going to be fun and exciting, and for all we know, there could be some really goofs and funny little things that happen along the way. So let's get started. The first step to making a classic eclair recipe is you have to make your choux pastry. So this gets a bit kind of quick and a little bit tricky, but so far what I've done is I've put a half a cup of water, a half a cup of whole milk. Now this is a vegan household, so we normally cook with almond milk, but because these recipes are very sensitive, I am cooking with whole milk. This is 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter. It is vegan butter, so we'll see how that reacts. 1 teaspoon of granulated sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And if y'all remember from any of my past videos, I don't usually like cooking with salt. However, since this is a bread type pastry, it is needed. 1 cup of all-purpose flour, and then 4 large eggs. So all that is in this bowl is everything except for the eggs. So water, whole milk, butter, sugar, salt, and flour. And so the first thing we need to do is, obviously we're in a medium saucepan, and we're going to combine all these things together, and then we're going to bring it up to a boil over medium heat. And then as soon as it comes to a boil, we're going to remove it from the heat, and we're going to stir in 1 cup of flour all at once with a wooden spoon, they recommend. So now we're just kind of waiting on a nice good boil. And so I'm just going to kind of move my butter around a little bit to just kind of help it melt. It's not necessary. I would say with some of these, what I consider a little bit more advanced recipes, you should kind of stay with it. Don't necessarily walk away and, you know, go check the laundry or anything like that. Kind of stay with it. Doesn't necessarily, the recipe does not say it, and I don't think you need to constantly be stirring it or anything, but you do want to keep an eye on it and make sure that you haven't let it go too far. Here I've got a nice good boil going. And then just turn the heat off. And that was about 3 minutes it took to get to the boil, since I didn't make you guys sit here and wait with me. It was about 3 minutes. All right. Now you're supposed to mix in your 1 cup of flour until it's fully incorporated. I've got that nice and mixed in. All right, now we're going to put it back on the heat. And the recipe suggests 1.5 to 2 minutes stirring constantly, because you're just trying to get the moisture out of it. And it's going to basically turn into a smooth ball, and you'll have a little bit of a film on the bottom of the pan. And I have done this once before, and that is accurate. You'll get a little bit of a film at the bottom of the pan. You don't have to cook it for the full 2 minutes. It's just telling you that it's about 1.5 to 2 minutes that it's going to take to do it. So I usually like to set a timer, that way I can kind of keep an eye on things. Okay, so we're doing really good. You're just trying to get the majority of the moisture out of it. And I don't know if you can see the film on the bottom of the pan is developing. I haven't even gotten a full minute in yet, so I'm going to give it just a hair longer, because again, you never know how your stove is going to cook as well. Alright, so we have definitely gotten to our minute. We're about to be in at our 1.5 minutes. And then right about now is a good time for you to go ahead and start preheating your oven, if your oven takes a few minutes to preheat. So you're going to preheat it to 425. So now we have our oven preheating to 425, and we're going to transfer our choux pastry over to an electric mixer. And we're going to just blend it a little bit just to kind of get the heat off of it. Now we're going to add our 4 eggs one at a time until they're fully incorporated, and then just beat it until it's smooth. So now what you're going to do is just basically kind of scrape down the sides and everything, get everything kind of together, and then we are going to pipe. And I will tell you that piping is not something I do very often, so it can be tricky. So what I'm going to do is I have bought a 16-inch piping bag from Wilton, and you'll see that they have little max marks. I put in my 1/2-inch tip of how big my eclairs are supposed to be, and then it has a max mark on it of how full you're supposed to get it. And basically what you do is you just roll down the top until you get to that max line. My hand is holding the piping bag, and then I've made a nice hole for me to be able to put my pastry in. Alright, and then you're just gonna basically get it in there the best way you can. You don't want to go past that max line if you can, because of the fact that it's there for a reason, and I'm going to show it to you in just a minute. I am definitely not an expert at this, so I would definitely recommend going out and seeing if you could find some great videos on piping. Hopefully one of these days I'll be better at it, and I can make a great video showing how to pipe well. But I just have not done it enough to be that fabulous at it. All right, so once you basically have got all of your pastry cream into the bag. All right, so we've got everything in the bag. Now what you want to do is you want to take and pull up and just kind of give it a good little shake. Make sure that your cream is down by the tip so that you can see everything. And then you're just going to basically twist. And it depends on whether you're left-handed or right-handed. And then the recommended length is 4 inches long, about 3/4 inches wide, which if you do a 1/2-inch tip, you're going to get that. So you're just going to basically squeeze your piping bag till you feel like you're about to 4 inches. And then you just kind of touch to get off. You want them to be about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch separated so that they don't combine together. Okay. And again, I do want to say I'm not an expert at this, so go out there and find you some great videos on how to do piping. There are some really good ones out there. People that are much better at it than I am. But I will say, you know, you'll get better. As you practice, you'll get better at it. But that's all I'm doing is I'm using my left hand to make sure that the bag stays closed, and then my right hand I'm actually squeezing the bag to squeeze out the pastry. And this is why sometimes I think it's good for people who are doing videos to show you what really comes out. I declared first and foremost that I had never made eclairs before. And what's interesting is my piping skills, again, I need to work on my piping skills some more. But like the last couple that I did, you know, this one kind of puffed up like it was supposed to, but then some of these in the beginning did not really puff up as much as perhaps that one did. But what I read online was that sometimes the reason that this happens is you don't let your choux pastry cool off enough before you add your eggs. So that's probably what happened. Now, will my wonderful husband who asked me to make these for him still eat them? Oh, sure. I obviously will have a little bit of a problem putting the cream, the pastry cream, inside them because they're so small. But and then it's obvious that they were cooked a little bit too long. I don't know that they necessarily should be this brown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these to this cooling rack, and then we're just going to let them cool off for about an hour, and then we'll come back and we'll make the pastry cream and put the pastry cream in some of them. So we are in the process of making our pastry cream now. One of the steps is in a bowl, you're supposed to whisk together 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 1/4 cup cornstarch, and 4 egg yolks only. Whisk until smooth, creamy and lightened in color. The recipe does say it should take a couple of minutes, so we're going to get started on this. So now what we're doing, the next step of this recipe is we have 2 cups of milk, and the recipe asked for a vanilla bean, which I'm using vanilla bean paste for the first time, so we're going to see how well that goes. It's wonderful that the package has on the back of it that if you're using like a whole vanilla bean, then you would use a whole tablespoon of vanilla paste. And since the recipe called for half a vanilla bean, I'm using a half a tablespoon of vanilla paste. And so we have to wait for this to boil. It does recommend to kind of keep an eye on it, keep it stirring, that way it doesn't get a film on it. But once this boils, then we're going to incorporate that into the sugar egg mixture that we were just doing, and I'll show you how we do that. So I have my warm milk mixture, and I'm about to start slowly pouring it into my egg mixture to be careful not to curdle my eggs. And as soon as it's combined, then we're going to put it back in the pan and put it back on the stove. Supposed to put it back in the hot pan. Make sure I got everything. Okay, so we've put it back on the stove on medium heat to bring to a boil again. And then as soon as it comes to a boil, we're supposed to just continue to keep whisking it for another good 30 seconds until it gets thick, and it's supposed to be like pudding, which it's definitely not pudding right now. It's been about maybe a minute or so, maybe 2 minutes, and we've got a boil, and we've got definitely some thicker texture. It says it's supposed to be thick and pudding-like consistency. Okay, so now we're going to put it into another bowl, nice and hot. And since we already put our vanilla bean paste, we're not going to put any more in here. Okay. And then it says we're supposed to cut up our butter. Alright, so we have our pastry cream that we've pulled off the pan, the stove, and it told us that we were supposed to put 4 tablespoons of butter. So we have done that. And now we're going to whisk this to make sure that our butter is good and mixed in well. Okay, let's see if we've got, yes, it looks like everything is combined well. So now we're going to take our pastry cream and put it in a separate bowl, and then we're going to put it in the fridge for about 30 minutes. Isn't that beautiful? That is just gorgeous. Okay, make sure we got everything. Okay. And then, like I said, we're going to put that in the fridge for about 30 minutes and let it cool so that we can pipe our eclairs. So I'll see you guys back in about 30 minutes. So we're back. If you're still with me, thanks for sticking through this with me. This is a really long recipe. So far we have made our choux pastry, which turned out pretty good. Not the best, but pretty good. And then we made our pastry cream, which we have that. And what we're about to do with this is, I have my piping bag with kind of a sharp tipped tip to it to kind of help break through the bread on the choux pastry. But now I'm just going to put some of the pastry cream in a bag so that I can fill my choux pastry. So we'll get this closed up. And then we're going to poke a couple holes. And then we're just going to squeeze the bag until we feel it pushing back. And grab our next one. Let's see if we can find a couple that are a little bit bigger. Like I said, your choux pastry shouldn't be that hard that you can't push on it, but just keep the bag squeezed closed and then just fill until you see it come out. Okay, so I'm going to call this recipe a fail at the moment, just because of how everything turned out. You can definitely tell that my choux pastry did not rise like it should have. It split, so it was definitely not mixed properly. And then the pastry cream just does not have the right consistency and just didn't pipe the way it should have. So please like and subscribe, and we will do more bakes together and figure these things out together. I'm definitely not giving up on making eclairs, but I think I've got a lot to learn, so we'll learn together. All right, have a great day.